Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to EnggAdda. So in this video we are going to discuss what is Spring Boot Security 3.0 version, how we can use Spring Security to secure our RESTful APIs, how we can perform the authentication and authorization of our APIs using Spring Boot Security. So everything we are going to discuss in this video. So here we are going to use the Spring Boot Security 3.0 version. We are going to use the updated or the latest version of Spring Security, not the previous one. Okay, so let's get started for that. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ and try creating one Spring Boot application. So go to the file, new project, and let's say it is a Spring Boot security demo, something like that. Okay, now you can select the Maven and go next. Let me try to create a web application. So for that, let me try to include the Spring Web. I've included the Lombok, and let me try to include the Spring Security as well. Okay, so these three dependency we have included as of now. So just create the application. It will take few seconds to create it and download all the dependency. So we have included the Spring Web so that we can develop couple of RESTful APIs and Spring Security for the security features. Lombok is to just reduce the code changes. Here we are not going to develop the whole Spring Boot application, whole Spring Boot CRUD application. We are just directly going to create uh, some APIs in the controller class, and then we'll try to use Spring Security features to secure our APIs. Okay, so just wait for that. Let me try to go to the project source main. It is not loaded as a Maven, so it might take few seconds. Let me try to load it from disk and see. Okay, let me try to close this and then reopen it again. So go to the file, recent project is Spring Boot security demo, and open in a new tab. Okay, so here you can see it has prompted us a notification which is showing that Maven build script found, load Maven project. So just click on it. It will load your Maven project, and after that we'll try to go inside the source and do some development. Okay, so we are good now. So now let me try to go to the application, go to source main Java, and we are inside the main class. Let me try to create one package called controller here. Okay, and let me try to create one class called basic controller. Okay, add it. So this is the controller class, so we need to annotate this class with REST controller and the request mapping. Let me try to do the class level mapping as a API. Okay, and let me try to create couple of get mappings here, or get API you can say. So let's say this is a hello API. Okay, let me try to create the method string hello. We are not passing anything, we are just simply returning something from here. Let's say hello, welcome to EnggAdda. Okay, so we have created this API. Okay, now let me try to run this application. So remember that we have included the Spring Security starter dependency. Okay, so for that, let's say what is the feature of it. So here you can see in the log, uh, one security password is generated. Okay, for us. So Our application is up. Our application is up on the port number 8080, and we have created this API, which is API slash hello. Now let me go to the browser and let me try to hit this API. Okay, localhost 8080 API slash hello. Okay, so here you can see this login form has popped up. So this is a feature of Spring Security. Because we have included the Spring Security starter dependency, we are getting this sign in page. And in the log, you can also see we are getting the password. Okay, so just copy the password. Okay, go to the browser, and username should be user, and the password that you get from the log, you can paste it here and just sign in. Now you can see you are able to get the string which is being returned from the method that or the API that we have created here. Hello, welcome to EnggAdda. Okay, so you are able to see this, right? So this is how the basic Spring features or Spring starter dependency is working. When you included the starter dependency, then it will automatically give you one uh, login page or one authentication page where you have to provide the username and the password in order to access the API. So this is just protecting your API from the external users, from external person to access your API, because only you have the access because you know the password, right? So this is how the Spring Security works. Now I just want to develop couple of more APIs to understand or to show you the whole use case of the Spring Security. Okay, so let me try to copy this API and create couple of more APIs. Okay, so let me try to see. Let's say this is the public API. Okay, and let's say its name is public, and let me try to uh, let's say this is a public API. Okay, now let me try to create the second API as a user API, something like that. Okay, and say here this is a user API. Okay, similarly, let me try to create the admin API. Okay, admin API. Okay, so why we are getting this error? Public okay, so it's public method, something like that we can name it. So we cannot use the restricted words, right? So we are good now. We have created this four APIs. Now let me try to remove this API, which is hello one. And let's say we have three APIs, which is public and user and admin. Okay. And I just want to configure our Spring Boot security in a such a way that whenever someone is going to hit the API, so the public API is accessible by everyone, and user API is only accessible by the person who has the role of user. Similarly, the admin API is accessible by only the admin person or the person who has the role of admin. So this is how we are going to use the Spring Security features to protect our APIs. Okay, so how we are going to do it? So first of all, let me try to also introduce you one another way of configuring your username and password in Spring. So let me try to run this application and try to show you those things as well. So just run this application. and here we get the password. Now let me try to go there, and let's say we are going to access the public API. So you get this login page. So the user is username, sorry, username is user, and the password we got from the logs. So just copy it and then go there, provide the password, just hit enter, and you can see you are able to access the API. Let me try to zoom you. So you can see you are able to access the API. Now you can also access the other APIs as well, because we have not put the authorization as of now. Okay, so once you have the username and the password, you can access all the APIs. Okay, so let's say you have the other APIs as user. So you can see you are able to access the user API. We have the public and we have the admin. So all API you can access from the one login. Okay. Now there is another way of logging is you can also configure your username and the password in the application properties file. So just go to the resource application properties file, and you can use this configuration, which is Spring security username user.name, and you need to provide the username. Let's say I'm going to provide the username as ABC. Similarly, you need to provide the security password as well. So you can provide this Spring security user password. Let's say the password is also ABC. Okay. Now let me try to run this application. Okay. So you can see our application is up, and this time we did not get the password in the logs, right? Because we have already configured the password here in application properties file. So with this password you can access it, and the username is now changed from the user to ABC. So let me try to go to the browser and try hitting the API. So you can see we get this login page. Now you need to provide the username as ABC and the password will also be ABC. Just sign in. Okay, let me try to do it again. ABC, and okay, let me try to hit some API. Let's say it is user API and ABC. Okay, there is a space, I think. Yeah, here you can see there is a space. Let me try to minimize it and remove this space as well. Try to rerun it and then try accessing the API. So our application is up. Now let me go to the browser, refresh this page, and now provide the username and password. Okay, so this time you can see we are able to access the API. Now let me try to provide the API here. So this is API slash user. You can see you are able to get the message. So that means you are able to access the API. Now let me try to access the other API, which is admin. You can see you are able to access the admin API as well. Similarly, we have the other API, which is public. Okay, so we are able to access the API. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to uh, put some basic authorization. Okay, so what I want, let me try to go to the controller, and as of now we have three APIs, which is public, user, and admin. First of all, I want to do the security configuration in such a way that anybody can access the public API. That means whenever you are going to access the public API, it will not ask you for the authentication. You don't have to provide the username and the password in that case. In rest of the case, you need the username and password. Okay. So first of all, we'll try to uh, develop our code in such a way that the public API would be without any authentication, and all the other API would ask for the authentication. So let me try to do the Spring configuration here. So first of all, let me try to create one package called config, And let's say we are going to create the class called Spring Configuration. And this is the configuration class, so we need to annotate this class with @configuration so that its bean can be created and assigned to the application context. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to do the authentication. Okay, so we need to do the authentication in such a way that the public API will not be asked for the username and password. Other API would be asked. Okay, so for that, let me try to create the bean of security filter chain, which is the new way of configuring your Spring security things. Earlier we have some other way. Let me try to walk you through those things as well. So let me go to the browser and let's say ask for the Spring security. And earlier we used this Spring security configure adapter to configure our Spring security. Now if you'll go down, go to this latest blog from the Spring. So you can see earlier, uh, if you are going to configure the Spring security, you are using this way. Like you created one class, and this class would be extending the web security configure adapter. Inside this web security configure adapter, we need to override one configure method, and there you have to provide your configuration. Okay, so earlier this is the way, but now it is deprecated, and we have the new way to do the configuration. Okay, so here you need to create this bean of security filter chain, and there you provide the configuration. So this is the new way we are going to try this one, and then do the configuration for us. Okay, so let me go to the IntelliJ, and here we need to create the bean of Spring security configure adapt sorry Spring security filter chain. Okay, so now let me try to create the bean of security filter chain. Let's say it's security filter chain, and let me try to remove this. Okay, so close this class. So we are good now, and here we need to pass the HTTP security request. Okay, and so what we are going to do, we are going to do the configuration in such a way that we don't have any login page for the public API. Public API will not be asked for the username and password, and other API will be asked. Okay, so for that we are going to do the configuration. So just try to use the HTTP security which we have passed as an argument, and based upon that we do the configuration. So let me try to disable the CSRF as of now. Okay, and now there is a method called authorize HTTP request. So we need to do that authorize HTTP request, and then we need to use this request matcher so that we can provide the API which we don't want to authenticate. So the API which is starting from the API public is not asked for the authentication. Okay, now let me try to close it, and then what you need to do, you need to permit it. So for all you need to permit this API. That means this API will not be asked for the authentication. Now for others API, what you need to do, you need to uh, use the form login. Okay, so any request should be authenticated and should be form login. Okay, and then you can uh, provide the semicolon here, and then you need to build this HTTP security and then just return it dot build. Okay, so we are getting some error here. We need to throw the exception, I think. So let me try to, you can see here, unhandle exception, which is exception. So let me try to throw the exception from this class, sorry, from this method. Okay, so we are good now. So what we did, we have did the configuration in such a way that for this API, for the API like which has the mapping like API slash public, is not asked for the authentication, and rest of them is asked for the authentication and form login. Okay, so let me try to rerun this application and try to hit the API and show you. As of now, we have the username and password as ABC and ABC. So this application is up. Let me go to the browser and come here. Let me try to access the public API. So when you are going to access the public API, this time it won't be asked for the authentication. So just refresh it. You can see it is not asking me for the authentication. Authentication page has not popped up here. We are able to access the API without authentication. So this is how we have did the configuration for the Spring Security. Okay, now let me try to access the other API. So let's say we are going to access the admin API. So you can see this time we have get this authentication page. So you need to provide the username and password here in order to access it. Okay, so let me provide the password. You can see you are able to access the admin API with the help of authentication only, not without authentication. Similarly, now we have authenticated, we have provided the username and password, we will be able to access the user API as well. So let me try to provide the user API here and hit enter. You can see, right? So this is how the configuration is done. Now let me try to go a next step and try to do some authorization work. Okay. So we just want to have the role-based authentication. Okay, so we are going to code that as well. So let me try to go to the IntelliJ, and here what we need to do, we need to do the role-based authentication. Okay, so we are going to create the users which have some username and the password and some role. And that particular user with the particular role would be able to access the particular API. Okay, let's say I have created one user called Ravi, and he has some password and he has the role of user. So only Ravi can access the API which is accessible by the user because Ravi has the role user. Okay, so similarly we are going to create second user which is having the role of admin, and he can access the admin API. So those things we are going to do now. So let me try to create first of all, let me try to create the users. Okay, so just there is a new way how you can create the users. So you can use the user detail service to create the bean of user detail service, and then this will try to create the user for you. So let me try to create the bean of public user detail service. Okay, and let me try to remove this extra. So we have created this, we are going to create this bean which is of user detail service, and inside it we'll try to create the users. Okay, so let me try to create the user. So there is a interface called user details. With the help of that you can create the user. So user details is equal to new user, and here you need to pick this user class, and now you can set the name, password and the role for this user. So let's say this user we are going to define as a uh, user. Yeah, let's say it is a user. Okay, and now let me try to define the name of this user. So you can see this method with name, with username you need to provide the username. Let's say username is Ravi, and let me try to provide the password for it. Let's say password is password, Okay, and now we need to provide the role. Let's say the role is user. Okay, and now we need to build it. And now this, let me try to go to this interface. So this is the interface, and there is some implementation of this interface. So we are going to create the instance of the implementation of this interface, which is in memory user detail manager. So with the help of in memory user detail manager, we can save our user details in the in memory so that Spring Security can recognize it. Okay, so let me try to do that. So return new in memory user detail manager, and here we need to pass the user details or reference that we have created. Okay, so we are good now. Now let me try to do the configuration here in the security filter chain. So let's say we have, let me go to the basic controller class. Let's say we want to do the authentication in such a way that this API is only accessible by the person who has the role as user. Okay, so that is how we are going to do the configuration. So go to the security filter chain and let me try to do that. So how we can do it? So here we need to let me try to copy this piece of code, and we have the API as user. Okay, and now we are going to set that only the person who has the role user will be will be able to access this API. Okay, so that is what you need to do. Now let me go and cross check the username. So the role is user, which we have set it here, and this is the API. Go to the basic controller and try to match it. So class level mapping is API and the method level mapping is user. So we are good now. Okay, so let me try to rerun this application and then try to access this API, which is a user API, with the help of the username and password, which is Ravi, and the password is password, because only the Ravi user has the uh, access to this user API. Okay, so let me try to do that. So this application is up, and let me go to the browser and let me try to hit this API. So it is asking for the username and password. So let me try to provide the username as Ravi and the password is password. Just hit enter. So we are not able to log in there. Okay. So we are making some mistake. Let me try to go here. Okay. So we did one mistake. We have not encoded our password. So without that, we cannot provide the password in the login page. So let me try to do that. So how we can do the password encoding? So there is a way in the new feature of Spring Security, you can encode your password. So you need to create the bean of password encoder. Okay, so let me try to do that. In the new feature of the Spring Security, everything is done in the form of bean. Okay, so this is very cool. So you need to use password encoder here, and let me try to, this is also an interface, so we need to return the implementation of this password encoder interface, which is bcrypt password encoder. Okay, and just good. Let me try to come here to the password of the particular user or the Ravi user, and how we can do this password encoder dot encode, and you need to provide the password here. Let's say password is password. Okay, why we are getting this? Okay, so we are using the interface. Let me try to use this method. Copy this, come here, and Okay, copy this, come here. Let me try to remove this as of now and encode and then provide the password here. So we are good now. Now let me try to run this application and try accessing the user API with the user as Ravi and the password is password. So come here and let me try to access the API, which is API slash user. Hit enter. The login page has come. User is Ravi and the password is password. Okay. So you can see this time we are able to access the API. So this is how you can do the authentication as well or role-based authorization. Okay. So now let me try to uh, create one new user with the admin access. Okay. So how you can do that? Similarly, how you have created the user for the user API, similarly you can do for the admin as well. So let me try to name this user detail as admin detail, and this time let's say the username is admin and the password is, let's say, password only, and the role should be admin. Okay, so we have created this new user. Let me try to go up, copy this and provide it here in the in memory user details manager. So we are good now. Now we need to do the configuration here. So copy this piece of code, paste it here, and this time we are going to provide the authentication for the admin role. Okay, so this time the API would be admin and has role should be admin. Okay, so anybody with the role admin can access this API. Okay, so let me try to uh, run this application. So this way, this is what we call authorization. Like the person is authorized to access the particular API because he has the role of that particular API. Okay, so let me try to run this application and try hitting the admin API. So first of all, what we'll do, we'll try to cross check it. So we'll try to hit the admin API with the user details and then see if user is able to access the admin API or not. Okay, so let me try to come here and let's say admin and the username was Ravi and the password was password, and you can see we are not able to access it, right? We are not getting anything. Now let me try to rerun it and access it by the admin credentials. Okay, so our application is up. Go to the browser and try accessing the admin API. So let's say the username for the admin was admin. Let me try to cross check it. Yeah, it is admin and the password is password. Just hit enter. You can see this time we are able to access the admin API with the admin credential, but we were not able to access the admin API with the user credential. Okay, and anytime you are able to access the public API. So let me try to access the public API as well and then show you. You can see, but if you'll try to access the user API, I don't think it will give you the result. Okay, similarly, if you are logged with the user credential, you will only be able to access the user API as well as the public API because it is available for everyone, but you won't be able to access the admin API. So this is how you can achieve the authentication and authorization. So this is the basic of Spring Security, and basically we are not like in the real life projects. These details are not stored here. These details are not hard coded. These details are coming from the DB. So in the coming video, we'll try to show you how you can store these details in the DB and try accessing from there. Okay. So this is about the video, guys. If you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe the channel for more such content. Thanks.